It had been 239 days since she had played competitive basketball. Furthermore, Caitlin Clark didn't take a shot as soon as she stepped onto that floor. Her first 3 touches included 3 assists. Suddenly, Caitlin Clark enters an FIA qualifier and accomplishes something so ridiculous that statisticians had to search through decades' worth of international records to understand what they had seen. There are 5 music of them. During Clark's senior women's national team debut, 5 FIA world records were destroyed in less than 20 minutes of court play. Team USA defeated Senegal by 64 points with the presence of Paige Bueckers and Angel Reese. Let's discuss what those 5 records were, what Carl Lawson, the coach of Team USA, said about it afterwards, and what music it likely signifies for the next game. If Clark's return to the court excites you, leave a comment that reads, "Welcome back, CC record breaker," down below.
Better offense.
We've got 5 new players checked in for Team USA, and if you can hear the crowd, Caitlin Clark checks in to her first minutes as a senior USA national team player. There's a lot of fans here for Caitlin Clark. I see signs, I see Indiana jerseys, I see Iowa jerseys. One of the most influential women's basketball players that we've seen, and she's here right now getting her first minutes in FIBA International.
The majority of athletes who return from an 8-month hiatus are tight. They use caution. They're attempting music to get their legs under them because they're feeling out of the game. What does it mean for Caitlin Clark to be the most promoted player on the team going into a FIA qualifier? "I thought I was going to be nervous, but I was just excited," she remarked. That's all. Going in, that was her entire vibe. Let's examine what those 239 days truly entailed. Due to an early injury, Clark's 2025 WNBA season ended with months of rehabilitation, training facilities, and no competitive basketball. In the meantime, FIBA was out here putting her face on everything with her broadcast partner, TNA. Marketing for the tournament, promotional materials, everything. Carrying that kind of pressure is strange.
Evan, just under a minute and a half left to go in the first. Billings up to Clark. Clark takes her first shot. And it's a 3, and it is good. That is Caitlin Clark's first bucket.
Before the game, Clark didn't appear to give in to any of it. She stated that she had been getting ready for this for a very long time and that she anticipated feeling excited and perhaps a bit nervous, but in a positive way. Additionally, she mentioned that the first game is the most difficult, but as you get into a sort of flow, you figure things out. She wasn't acting as though there was no pressure then. She simply refused to let it control her.
Take another look at Caitlin Clark's debut shot. In rhythm, comes off the screen, gets the handoff. And you're right, that very much was a rattler. Touched about every single inch of that rim before it went down.
It wasn't just Clark's debut. Thus, the atmosphere around this game was already tense. In the same game, 6 players were making their senior national team debuts. For the first time at this level, Paige Bueckers, Angel Reese, Kiki Arifin, and others entered that floor. Thus, the crew as a whole is experiencing this communal first-time energy. Clark is at the center of it, but her face appears on the tournament poster as well. The initial experience will be similar to dressing up for the senior national team.
The first feeling going to be like suiting up for the senior national team?
Oh, it's going to be amazing. Like, as a kid, this is what you grow up watching. So obviously I've watched a lot of really great players, and now I think it's kind of like going to be a pinch me moment. Like, this is kind of what you dream of. And obviously, as being someone that's played for 3 junior national teams, you know, not many kids that had that opportunity get this opportunity. So just super grateful.
Surreal. Even just holding the flag on my shoulders today I couldn't even describe the feeling. So I'm just super excited to represent our country and to play with some amazing women.
I feel blessed. I'm gonna be feeling real blessed in those first moments.
The way Clark presented her own role before entering is extremely telling. "This is a different stage," she stated. "You won't be the star player when you come out here. For USA basketball, that won't be the case. If all you're thinking is, 'I'm back,' you won't say that. Watch me score." That person came in with a definite plan and completed her homework. Therefore, whether she could still play wasn't the true question prior to tip-off. After 8 months away, the question was whether she could play at this level and pace against a blitz defense in 19 minutes or less of court time. And after the game, after everything had been resolved, Clark made a straightforward statement. "Above all, I'm glad I got to play basketball, even though I'm sweating a lot right now." She added that I picked up the game really quickly, particularly once the first three started to roll around.
Feeling pretty good at the dub.
And when you consider Carol Lawson's choice on the starting lineup, which excluded Clark, that question becomes much more complicated. Additionally, it appears that Coach Lawson is regretting what she said after learning about the 5 records that Clark shattered. Every piece of tournament promotion that FIBA and TNA produced featured Clark's image. At tip-off, Carl Lawson had her seated on the bench. Since that wasn't a random call, let's discuss that. At point guard, Chelsea Gray made her debut. On paper, that makes logical. Gray is a seasoned veteran with championship experience who can manage an offense under duress. The reasoning is clear. This is where things start to get interesting, though. The starting unit struggled greatly when Segal launched an aggressive full-court blitz. Gray was pulled off the point guard position within 35 seconds. 35 seconds. To relieve the pressure, Dakahami and Angel Reese intervened to handle the ball. The starting unit was unable to gain traction.
We look at the assists there. Team USA has 30, and like I mentioned, 12 of those came from Caitlin Clark, they usually call Chelsea Gray the point guard, and they call Caitlin Clark just a shooter. They switched roles today.
Clark then made his check-in. 3 assists in her first 3 possessions. Not 3 assists in the first quarter. 3. Helps with the initial touches. The game's tempo abruptly changed. Statistically speaking, you can't really put that in a box. The entire crew senses that kind of thing right away.
Over to Plum. Plum hands it right back, and Clark off the Billings screen gets it into Monique Billings, and that's her first bucket.
Additionally, Clark's response to Segal's blitz was completely different from that of the beginning unit. The purpose of Segal's pressure strategy is to incite pandemonium in the backcourt in order to frighten the guards and force them to surrender. These similar blitzes were being converted into quick breaks by Clark. She was pushing pace, finding teammates in rhythm, and reading the defense before it had a chance to set. Surviving the press was the initial unit. It was being weaponized by Clark.
I had a conversation with every player, one-on-one, not necessarily before the game, but the last couple of days. But I told her, and you know, with Caitlin, she brings this dynamic play to the offensive end. I mean, that goes without saying. And as much as she is dynamic as a scorer, she's one of the most dynamic playmakers in the world as well.
It was particularly difficult to break the bond between Clark and Ryan Howard. A significant portion of Howard's team-high 21 points came directly off Clark's readings. Howard is making threes until Clark draws the blitz and kicks it. Segal must now choose whether to back off and let Clark do whatever she wants or to continue blitzing and give up threes. The starting unit wasn't producing that kind of issue at quite the same rate.
I thought Caitlin's playmaking ability, really kind of got us going. We got into a nice rhythm in that second quarter and scored a lot of points. So
imagine this. The player on the tournament poster is significantly outperforming the starter after coming off the bench. Music at the post-game podium, Carl Lawson declares that the lineup and rotations are in fact-finding mode. When a coach is happy with the setup, she doesn't say that. Lawson added that Clark is one of the most explosive playmakers in the world and that her ability to create plays really got us going. That's hardly the language of a bench player.
So we just talked about her utilizing all the talents, the most talented team she's played on. So imagine being a dynamic playmaker and then all of a sudden you're playing alongside all these other dynamic playmakers and finishers. And so I thought she toggled between, the playmaking and the scoring really well tonight and looked pretty comfortable out there. So I was proud of how she played in her debut.
The group that elevated us was Plum, Irioffen, and Billings. Chelsea Gray wasn't in that starting lineup, but after you see what Clark did to Segal's music, defense, the starting lineup dispute becomes practically irrelevant because that's where this game took a very different turn. While all of that was going on, the assists, the speed, the blowout, statisticians were discreetly reviewing decades' worth of FIA records in an attempt to understand what they had just witnessed. Someone began running the numbers after the game. They discovered something that simply doesn't appear right, so you have to double-check it.
Five players at a time.
Hockey subs.
Hockey subs.
Kelsey Plum with her first. Caitlin Clark on the move, over to Billings. Billings on the left-hand side, off the glass, and how dangerous is Team USA?
Clark was a reserve player. She provided 12 assists in those 19 minutes. Against a defense designed to force turnovers, Clark accomplished that. Additionally, she didn't drop the ball once during the first half. Never once. So just sit with that for a moment before we even get to the recordings. 19 minutes, 12 assists, and no turnovers in the first half. First competitive game in 239 days, off the bench. Are you prepared? Because these aren't simply records for the most assists in a blowout. They cover both men's and women's basketball, every nation, and the whole FIA qualification competition history.
High-level basketball.
Ryan Howard, back to Clark. Clark into Irvin, and Irvin off the glass, the ball movement.
Make a note of one. Most assists in a senior national team debut for Team USA, either men or women. With 12 assists in her maiden game, Clark has the most assists of any player making their U.S. senior national team debut. Every musician, regardless of gender or era, has vanished. In any senior national team debut, whether for men or women, record 2 or more assists. Thus, this reaches much beyond basketball in the United States. In FIA competition, Clark's debut assist total is the greatest ever recorded by a player making their senior national team debut. Every nation, every debut. Clark's got the record. Record 3, second most assists in FIA. Qualifying tournament history. Not simply first-time releases. Music, at this stage, we're discussing every qualifying match that a player has ever participated in. In all of that, Clark's 12 assists stand second in history. 19 minutes in one game is the second in FIA history. Keep track of 4. The most assists in FIA history for both men and women who came off the bench. She didn't even begin, so this one is significant. She broke the FIA record for most assists by a reserve player even after coming off the bench. Men's or women's bench record. She had 5 assists in the first half and no turnovers. The most assists in any half of an FIA qualification match ever recorded. Before halftime, Clark had 8 assists and had never given up the ball. Just that half is a record for the FIA.
Here's Clark once again. She's got 8 points. She wanted to pull up for 3, but gonna share it with Ryan Howard, who puts up a 3, and that's her second of the game. Give her. Comes off the screen from Irvin, kicks it over to Clark. Clark behind the back crossover finds Ryan Howard. Howard for 3. And we said it, the connection between Caitlin Clark and Ryan Howard has been beautiful.
That's not everything. Let's discuss why everything else is even more ridiculous when there are 0 turnovers. There is typically considerable risk associated with high assist totals. You're moving quickly. You're reading with aggression. You're making the game play quickly. That leads to errors. Despite all of that, Clark did not give up the ball during the first half. That's a distinct degree of control, not merely efficient. This occurred during her first competitive match following a 239-day absence. Not a tune-up, not a rhythm game, and not an off-bench debut.